So I don't normally do tech stuff on here. Tech's my job. Tech's what I do for a living. I don't want to talk about tech. Necessarily, unless it's the tech that's related to games and my hobby and other hobbies and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, one of the things that I like to do is every now and then I like to go over email clients. Back in the day, when I started doing email, using computers and the internet, I'm not going to say we didn't have any of these newfangled web clients, because my first email was Hotmail. Before Hotmail was owned by Microsoft even, I believe. I was using stuff like Eudora, Thunderbird, which will be the one that we talk about in a minute, and every now and then I check to see what free clients are available, because if I'm going to, try stuff out, do test runs, I don't necessarily want to spend a big chunk of cash up front. And basically it's also, I'm just using it for me. I'm not running a big enterprise thing. It's good if it can handle multiple email accounts, because, I have my email account, and I have the one I use for the Anime Explorations podcast. But that's about it. So, I do my latest test runs, and I ran through a few of the email web clients that are out there, and web and non-web clients that were free, and give thoughts on which ones I go with. My primary offline one I use is Thunderbird. It's open source, it's free, it's very well featured. It does have some problems that makes it not quite work for me. I use, for my primary two email accounts, Gmail, and I use labels a lot in Gmail to help keep things organized. I'm almost, I'm not going to say I'm obsessive, but I have big nested label file structures and that sort of thing. And Thunderbird doesn't do that. There's been the plugins that would cover that, but oftentimes they didn't work well. They caused the software to hang on multiple occasions when bringing up the actual webmail, and the messages, and when they did come up, it wouldn't properly bring up the tags that were with them, which made it ultimately cause a massive performance hit that made it not worth my while to use that plugin. And there's been requests in to have that functionality added in to Thunderbird, but no significant action taken as yet. Because normally when I label it, I archive it once I've read the message, but otherwise it stays in my inbox with the label there, so I can tell at a glance, okay, it's related to X, Y, or Z, and I act on it accordingly. So, among the ones I checked were, of these, Notion Mail, Blue Mail, and I forget what the third one was, Spark Mail. The fourth one I tried was Spark Mail. Now, so let's start off with Notion Mail. Talk about, once again, Thunderbird for a minute. Doesn't support the features that I want in terms of showing my label tagging for messages, but what it does do, loads messages very quickly, talks to, for example, Gmail, easily handles multiple email clients, or email accounts through different services, and it also handles handles HTML, archival versus deletion versus hiding the message while keeping it keeping it actually in your inbox, and pulls everything up when I bring it up. I don't have to pay extra to get anything beyond 90 days, so I can theoretically search my entire inbox, read and unread. So there's that. So that's what I'm minimum I'm looking for, plus getting tagging. Notion... Oh, the other thing is with threaded messages, it will display all unread messages to open and expanded rather than contracted together. So, Notion Mail. I've started using Notion as a note-taking app for D&D related stuff. I was kind of pointed to it by Sly Flourish on his Patreon and other podcast and his books and that sort of thing. Like, okay, check this out. I'm starting to migrate some of my note-taking stuff over there. I generally like Notion some. It also has its own problems in my perspective. Like, in particular, well, it doesn't support like folders and that sort of thing. I can create pages underneath parent notebooks, but I can't then classify notebooks further, which is... I'm like really picky about organization. That's one of the ways my autism works, and it doesn't support that, but I haven't like fully bought in to Notion yet. I may figure something out for that later, but I started hearing about Notion Mail through various blogs and tech sites and Android sites and that sort of thing. Okay, let's try it out. On the one hand, it handles a lot of the labels and stuff really well. It has the parent label. It has the the classification for forums, updates, social, promotion, primary, whatever, and also will have child labels like pull stuff like GitHub posts for open source software that I use, that sort of thing. We'll have those classification labels in there as well. So, thumbs up there. The problem is for threaded posts, it just goes straight to the bottom one and hides all the newer posts. So I have to remember, okay, where is the last email in this thread that I read? Which is very much not great and kind of an organizational deal breaker for me. This makes it hard for me to keep track of where I'm at in the discussion. And if it's a long-running discussion on a forum or on a message list related to organizing science fiction conventions, particularly, say, Worldcon and what's going on around that, I want to be able to read the whole thing. I don't want it to collapse to, here's the newest message, because the messages that are above that have just as important in their context than whatever the last thing somebody said is. So, not great there. Otherwise, a lot of functionality is good, but that's one point where it's just a straight-up deal breaker. Then, I tried out SparkMail. SparkMail is interesting. I like its format. It looks okay. It supports tagging. But if I want to create filter rules, the problem is then I have to go back into Gmail to do it. Or I have to go back into go back to whatever the parent email account is to do that specifically. Theoretically, I could create AI-powered smart folders, which, I mean, if I'm going to do anything large language model related, that's what I do. But, that's also a pay functionality, which, like, basic email filters are supported out of the gate with Thunderbird. They're supported without having to pay extra for Gmail. So, that's just a pain here. Again, like, that feels like basic email functionality. That's like email client functionality. And not having it here feels not helpful, honestly. Bluemail. Bluemail is almost there. Like, it has a form factor to its presentation that is very reflective of what Thunderbird has in a positive way. It does email threading, which I also is something that Thunderbird does. It possibly does email filter rules. I say possibly because it also doesn't show the tagging. So it gets me Thunderbird functionality with some AI stuff tacked on. And that's kind of like a bit more of a glitzy visual presentation. But that's kind of about it. Which puts me in a weird spot where, like, Thunderbird is the bar to clear, and nobody's quite got it yet. I might go back and try, well, Spark Mail again, and just bite the bullet of having to go back and forth for needing to create filters. But otherwise, like, because I like the aesthetic of the interface is fine. It doesn't. Otherwise, it doesn't quite click for me necessarily. That said, of the three of the three of these alternatives, like Spark Mail feels like the one where, like, okay, I might try spending more time with it to see if I can get it to work the way I need it to do. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't.
All right, quick little update from the edit bay, so to speak. So there are two programs that I consider really focusing on. Well, continuing to use after the main evaluation period that I went through for making this video. Thunderbird, which still wins, but new information came in as I was checking over a couple things while I was getting ready for thing with Spark Mail, and that is that, like, as far as all the various other email clients go, most of them, if they have AI functionality, large language model functionality, will put it behind a paywall. I have no issue with that. It's when I would consider core fundamental functionality, stuff that is free in Thunderbird, which I would consider to be the baseline for what your email client should be able to do for free, or on the free tier. That when that is not available, then that's something that makes me not want to continue using the software. And in this case, Spark Mail had several significant feature sets that were not available on the free tier, up to and including the home screen that comes up when you bring the app up from a extended period of not using it because you're at work or what have you, which gives you a picture, the current time, and a small box with information on on some emails that have come in, like priority emails that have come in your absence and are currently unread. I bring this up because you can pull that priority tag information from Gmail, because that's what Spark Mail does, is it links to Gmail. So Gmail supplies that information. You get that through the API. You don't need to do any AI processing crap to get that. The picture, okay, maybe you license the image gallery, but ideally what you'd also be able to do if you're doing something like this is let the user select their own images, which means you're not having to actually use that licensed image gallery. You could have in fact, users will very likely want to, by default, I certainly appreciate you pulling from an image gallery that you've licensed of, like, scenic shots and that sort of thing. You're going to have a significant number of users who are going to want pictures of their kids, want their scenic vacation photos, want a selection of, I don't know, anime screenshots, what have you, video game art, whatever. They're going to want that instead of your stock scenic wildlife, whatever, photo library. So that's something that should be covered more or less for free, but it's not. Other thing, Blue Mail. Bluemail, I just said a deal breaker that I'd forgotten about until after I uninstalled it following the evaluation period and after I recorded the initial video, because I uninstalled everything after I recorded that initial video, or everything I wasn't going to continue using after that initial video. Bluemail doesn't uninstall properly. Bluemail, which is installed through the Windows Store, it's a Windows Store app, so it shouldn't have this problem. Once uninstalled, has a startup hook that stays in the computer that will have it pop up a message on boot where it tries to load the program on startup, but can't because you've uninstalled it. And those hooks, whatever the hook is, doesn't show up in the startup menu. As far like if you go into Windows startup programs, that doesn't show up in that menu there, so you can't move it there. You have to edit the registry to clean up Bluemail. So, big strike against there. In fact, I would put that as a Bluemail as a firm. Do not use, and actually probably this software should be banned, should be kicked off the Microsoft Windows Store. That's not like, that shit's not okay. Whatever their certification process is that lets that program get through, that is a failure of that program. That is not okay. That should be kicked off the store. One of the basic criteria that you should have for any sort of app store like this, I would include Steam, I would include GOG Galaxy on the gaming front as well, is that when your software uninstalls, it uninstalls clean. That anything that's left behind is things that it asks you if you want to leave behind. Settings files, in case you need to do a reinstallation, game saves, that sort of thing. It should not leave a hook to the startup folder or hooks in the registry for a startup that causes it to keep trying to load on start. If it's a game, it shouldn't, once you uninstall it, any DRM that it has for purposes, or any anti-cheat software that it has, unless that anti-cheat software is being used by something else, should go with it. So, again, not okay. SparkMail, strike against it for what I would consider basic functionality being locked behind a paywall. If you can afford it, fine, whatever. Otherwise, like interface-wise, it looks nice. Functionality-wise, it works well. It doesn't have the problems that I had with Notion Mail in terms of just automatically collapsing all messages in a thread. Even if 5 or 6 messages have come in within the time you've received your last email, which, again, if you were in like a big ongoing thread as part of a project, whether you're doing this professionally as a freelancer, contractor, or in your workplace, or if you're doing this on your own in a conversation between family members, that's not okay. Like, it's better than Notion Mail, but on the other hand, like, basic functionality that I would consider either necessary or useful, or at least a nice thing to have that doesn't cost that much on top from a maintenance standpoint. Costing, locked behind a $10 a month paywall, $10 to $15 a month paywall or more. Weird. Not okay. Don't like it. That's where I'm at on that. So currently, are back in a situation where, in terms of standalone email clients, frankly, not to put a fine point on it, Thunderbird remains the winner and champion standing by default. It feels odd that it's not odd, but like that so few companies can manage to like when presented with a clear template for, okay, here's your baseline, can you surpass this? And presented with Thunderbird is, okay, all I got to do is beat this. Everything's open source. You can see what they're doing and how they're doing it. How do you top that? And the response from everyone is like, we can't actually surpass this. That's rather disappointing, actually. But not that there's anything wrong with Gmail, or Gmail, but with Thunderbird as an email client. So I guess I want to say this is a backhanded props to the Thunderbird Foundation, the Mozilla Foundation for Thunderbird, but Mozilla Foundation manages to still, if not knock it out of the park, in fact, certainly not knocking it out of the park, but at the very least, consistently landing base hits. Which is more than a lot of the competition is accomplishing. I'll say that.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Tossing me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.